Let's talk about an empire that lasted for hundreds of millions of years, a dynasty of giants that ruled every single corner of our planet. Today, we're diving into the incredible reign and legacy of one of Earth's most successful groups of animals ever, the dinosaurs.
Just look at this number for a second, 180 million. That's how many years the dinosaurs were the dominant life on this planet. Now, to put that into perspective, our own species, Homo sapiens, we've only been around for about 300,000 years. That means their reign was 600 times longer than our entire history. It's a span of time that's so vast, it's honestly hard to even wrap your head around.
So how in the world did they pull that off? What was their secret? And maybe the biggest question of all, what could possibly bring such an unbelievably long era to a sudden catastrophic end? Well, those are the exact questions we're going to dig into.
To really get a grip on their reign, you have to start thinking in geological time. I mean, this wasn't just some short chapter in Earth's history, it was a complete saga, a massive story that unfolded across 3 totally distinct and dramatic periods.
Okay, so their story kicks off way back in the Triassic period, but it was really during the Jurassic that they hit their stride and rose to total dominance, and they held that top spot all the way through the Cretaceous period. They were the undisputed kings of the planet. And then, boom, 66 million years ago, it all just stopped. So that's the basic timeline of their incredible history.
So what actually made a dinosaur a dinosaur? You know, it wasn't just about being big and having scales. There were a few key anatomical features that gave them this massive evolutionary advantage and really set them apart from all the other reptiles running around at the time.
It pretty much all comes down to this unique toolkit. First, they had an upright stance. Their legs were directly underneath their bodies, not sprawling out to the sides. This was all thanks to a really unique hip structure. And, of course, they all laid eggs. But really, it's that first point, that upright stance, that was the absolute game changer.
Look at this difference here. On the one hand, you've got other reptiles from that time, like the ancestors of crocodiles, with that sprawling stance, legs out to the side. But then you have the dinosaurs, who evolved this upright posture. It might seem like a small change, but it allowed for way more efficient and powerful movement. It gave them a huge advantage in their world.
Now, with hundreds of known species, you'd think classifying dinosaurs would be super complex. But surprisingly, it all boils down to that unique hip structure we were just talking about. It's the perfect example of how one little anatomical difference can create a massive fork in the evolutionary road.
And that's really it. It's that simple. I mean, despite this mind-boggling diversity of shapes and sizes, from those tiny feathered raptors all the way up to the colossal longnecks, every single dinosaur species fits neatly into one of 2 families, and it's all based on the shape of their hips.
So here are the 2 big families. First up, you've got the saurischians, also known as the lizard-hipped dinosaurs. This group is wild because it includes both the giant, long-necked plant eaters like Brachiosaurus and the famous meat eaters that walked on 2 legs like T-Rex. Then the second group is the ornithischians, the bird-hipped. These were mostly herbivores, and they're the ones you see with incredible armor or horns like the famous Triceratops and Stegosaurus.
So you have these 2 incredibly successful families just dominating the planet for millions and millions of years. They were absolute masters of their environment. But then, in what was basically a single day, their entire world was shattered by a visitor from outer space.
The culprit? It's called the Chicxulub asteroid. This was a rock about 6 miles wide that just screamed through our atmosphere and slammed into what is now Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. The impact hit with the force of billions of atomic bombs. And that was only the beginning of the nightmare.
The aftermath was this horrifying chain reaction. The impact itself triggered massive tsunamis. It sent a heat pulse rocketing around the globe, igniting wildfires everywhere. So much debris and soot got blasted into the atmosphere that it literally blocked out the sun for months, maybe even years. Of course, the plants died, then the herbivores that ate the plants starved, and then the carnivores that ate them followed suit. The entire global food chain just collapsed. In this new, dark world, being big suddenly became a fatal liability. The ecosystems needed to support giant animals were just gone. Survival now depended on being small, on needing less food and less space. The only creatures that really stood a chance were no bigger than a house cat. The age of giants was officially over.
But what if I told you that wasn't the complete end of the story? What if I told you that some dinosaurs did make it through the apocalypse, and that they are still with us right now today?
So was it really the end for every single one of them? For every dinosaur lineage? Well,
The answer is one of the most amazing stories in the entire history of life on Earth.
Turns out, one small group of dinosaurs managed to hang on. They were small, they were feathered, and they had a critical advantage. They could fly. They somehow survived that long, dark winter that followed the impact, and when the sun finally came back, they emerged into a world with endless new opportunities.
That one surviving lineage evolved into what we now know as modern birds. Yeah, that means that every single bird you see today, from a pigeon on the street to an eagle soaring in the sky, is a direct, living descendant of a dinosaur. They aren't just like dinosaurs, they are dinosaurs. But here is the most fascinating, mind-bending twist in this whole story. Remember those two families, the lizard-hipped and the bird-hipped. Common sense would tell you that the bird-hipped dinosaurs are the ones that gave rise to birds. But they didn't. It was actually a branch of the lizard-hipped saurischians, the same family as T-Rex, that evolved into birds. It's just a wonderful, weird irony of evolutionary history.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. You know, evolution isn't a straight line. It's a chaotic story of pure chance and catastrophe. If that one asteroid had just missed our planet 66 million years ago, would mammals have ever had a chance to rise up? Would humans even be here? And would birds, the last living dinosaurs, have ever gotten the chance to fill the skies? Makes you think, right?